Adam Caruso and Thomas Demand, welcome. I just wanted to begin with the beginning and ask you about how it all started. What was your epiphany? How did you get into art and architecture?
Do you want me to start?
My father is an architect, so I grew up knowing I didn't want to be an architect because it was such a difficult profession. I went through high school with that firm belief, and I started university in sciences, but then I switched to art history, and I almost finished art history, and then somehow I couldn't resist being drawn into architecture. And I told myself I'm interested in the subject in an academic way, I wouldn't practice, but by the time I graduated I did start to work for architects and to practice. So despite my best intentions, I became an architect.
I just can't remember that I ever wanted to do something else. So there is no beginning or no. I just grew up and I knew I eventually become an artist. And that's what it was. No, there was no alternative.
You once mentioned that there was this friend of yours at school whose parents collected, and that was a sort of a excitement.
That showed me that art is actually something else than like what in prehistoric museums is hanging. That it's kind of a contemporary practice, and it's a way of using your brain, which is in a very different way than anything else I knew. But like basically that was already, that was giving the twist within becoming an artist inevitably. Not knowing what I would do at all. I just realized that the whole thing is actually much more complex, and it's a contemporary practice, much more than something which ends up in a museum. It's just something you do rather than something which you have made.
One of the things I thought would be interesting in terms of this sort of polyphony of interviews here as a part of an exhibition would also to contribute to Eric Hobsbawm's protest against forgetting. So to kind of ask all the participants about their heroes and their inspirations, to sort of remember certain positions maybe from the past. So who in are the main inspirations and heroes?
I believe firmly in the idea of heroes, and it's something that even now, 20 years into my own practice, I try to declare who my heroes are, because it becomes dodgier as you get older, but I think too few people admit to their influences, But I do find it increasingly difficult to find living heroes because of the state architecture has gone through in the last 15 years or so. But there are living architects I still have enormous respect for. One person I can think of is Alvaro Siza. I think, he's somebody who I was a bit aware of. I guess he became an international figure just beginning to become one when I was at school. So it was somebody whose reputation grew as I became an architect and as I started my practice with Peter. So he's been someone we've always followed. But further back, other heroes that I have, big hero is Webb, an English arts and crafts architect from the second half of the 19th century. I think one of the last great English architects, and I guess I hugely admire the integrity that he exercised in his work as a designer, but also professionally, and the way the two things were inseparable for him. And this overriding integrity is something which is manifest in his work, as well as in his life, which you don't need to know about.